Welcome back. So after confirming all the electronics worked, I could finally reassemble the guitar.
First thing I did was screw the pickguard back on, except this time I used black pickguard screws instead of the original chrome. It's another personal touch of mine. I kind of like the black on black look. It's more seamless this way. Then I screwed back on the bridge, then the control plate, then the input jack. This particular input jack has always felt iffy, and now that there were more excess cables, it was a bit more annoying to stuff everything in place. Then I added new knobs, another personal touch of mine. I added Strat knobs instead of reusing the original ones. I actually prefer Strat knobs as I like having numbers on the knob for reference, and the Strat style switch tip is much smaller than the previous one. The previous one was a top hat switch, so now there's more space around the switch, which makes it easier to change pickup positions on the fly. Then I reattached the neck, screwed back on the back plate. Then I was about to string it up until I saw a small gap between the body and the fingerboard near the neck joint. At first I thought I didn't attach the neck properly, but after taking it off again and examining it, it turns out the fingerboard itself is slanted on the bottom side, which you can see right here. I can't believe I never noticed this the first time. Anyways, now that I knew that, I reattached the neck, put a new set of strings on, played it, and immediately found it was unplayable as the action was way too high. Not because it wasn't set up well, but because the nut slots weren't deep enough. In other words, I didn't realize the nut slots needed to be filed down. I had just blindly assumed that just because they were pre-cut, it would be ready to go. So I had to file them down. Now don't get me wrong, pre-cut nuts are still super helpful, so I wouldn't have to figure out where to cut the initial slots, but it's still a lot of work. So this would be my first time ever filing a nut. It's a little nerve-wracking because filing is an irreversible job. So I had to order nut files and a feeler gauge. Nut files come in different sizes, but I got some that were an exact match for the string gauge that I use, and the feeler gauge I got has some measurements and guidelines to follow, so I refer to them a lot. When it comes to filing the nut, there's lots of videos out there on how to do it, so you should refer to those. All I can say is, it's a long and tedious process. You have to loosen the strings, file the slots, retune the strings to pitch, test by playing the guitar, measure the gap height, and repeat, and repeat, and repeat the same process over and over. And don't forget to use painter's tape to protect the areas around the nut. So once I hit the suggested measurements on the feeler gauge, I still felt the action was too high for me, so I kept going on my own. And eventually I found a sweet spot where the string height and action were just right for me. Actually, I would say it's pretty low because I prefer low action, but the most important thing is it played just the way I like, so I was quite happy with the end result.
After I considered myself done with nut filing, along with a few broken strings along the way, I continued with all the remaining steps involved in setting up the guitar. Again, there's lots of videos out there on how to do a complete guitar setup, so I didn't bother filming all that, but I will say, besides the nut filing, the other thing that took me the most amount of time was adjusting the pickup height and getting both pickups to sound as balanced as possible. In the end, the closest I could get still had the bridge pickup slightly louder than the neck, which is kind of expected because this bridge pickup is slightly hotter than average.
Finally, there was one final mod I made, one that I decided to make at the last minute, and that was changing the strap buttons from plain standard ones to a locking system. And full disclosure, I installed these after I recorded all my footage that you'll be seeing in the next video, for those of you who might be keen enough to notice. There are lots of different kinds of strap lock systems, but I went with this particular one. And while I was at it, I decided to change the strap button washers from cheap rubber ones to these ones, made of felt. I installed the lock part on my current go-to strap, and installing the new strap button was a pretty straightforward process, along with the new felt washers, which I think are better. They won't damage the finish on the guitar, whereas the rubber ones can get sticky and can break over time.
And that's it! You've now seen all the mods and upgrades I've made to the guitar, and now it's ready to be played. So I've installed a good number of parts and got some new tools as seen in this video, and I've included links in the description below for all of them. You can guess what's coming up in the next video. I know you're all looking forward to it, so I'll see you all then.